welcome to Local Elections 2026, a conversation for Southwest New Brunswick, hosted by CHCO-TV and the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission. I'm Vicki Hogarth.
And I'm Natalie Sturgeon. Many of you joining us tonight are planning to run to represent your community in the local elections on May 11th. This evening is about giving you the information you need and the opportunity to ask questions directly to the people who understand how this system works.
That's right, and if you're watching this on television after the live event, we hope you'll find this conversation just as useful. Local government shapes the places we live in very real ways, and understanding how it works is the first step toward being part of it. Let's begin by introducing our panel. Joining us here in the CHCO studio is Hollis Bartlett, CEO of the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission. Hollis will be speaking about the role of the Service Commission and how it works with local governments. He'll also be keeping track of your questions throughout the evening, so please feel free to submit them at any time. The main focus of tonight is the question and answer period. We're also joined by Jim Higgins from Elections New Brunswick, who will begin the evening with an overview of the basics, from who can run to how the nomination process works.
And here on the couch, we're joined by several people who have served their communities and understand public office from the inside. Andrea Anderson Mason is the former New Brunswick Minister of Justice and former MLA from Fundy the Isles, St. John West, and she will speak about the relationship between the province and municipal government and the broader call to public service. We're also joined by Frank Carroll, former Mayor of Macadam, Ghislaine Wheaton, Deputy Mayor of the Municipal District of St. Stephen, and Jim Tubbs, who served as a representative for Rural District 10. Each of them brings first-hand experience and will speak candidly about the realities of the role, the time commitments, the challenges, and the rewards.
So at the end of the presentation, Natalie will also be doing about 10 minutes on the role of the media and how it interacts with local governments, the do's and don'ts of everything from how to use social media to how to respond to questions from journalists. That will be at the very end of tonight, so look for that at the end. But we're going to begin with the basics. Jim Higgins is here from Elections New Brunswick. Nomination papers for candidates are due April 10th at 2 p.m. Jim, at this stage in the process, what questions are you still hearing the most often from people who are considering running?
Most of the questions we're getting are surrounding the nomination papers themselves. It can be a little tricky, but they're not that bad if you take your time. And if anybody has any questions, all they have to do is call the office. We'll work their way through them. Who can run? Got to be 18 years of age, got to be a Canadian citizen, got to live in the area in which you're running at least for 6 months prior to the election. They want to know who can nominate, who can sign their nomination papers. People who nominate you must live inside that catchment area. They want to know what the rules, most of this has been lately a big one, what are the rules of signage and their pamphlets they're handing out. Right, with copyright laws, they have to make sure that whoever prints it, whether it's even them or a company, must have the company or their name and address on the leaflet or on the sign somewhere on the front. So that's a big one we're running into. So for candidates, that's where it comes from.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jim, when we talk about promoting oneself on the campaign trail, are there rules about, I know as media outlets, we have to be very careful on election day, but when people are doing their own promotions on social media, does that factor in? What are the rules?
They're pretty wide open as far as that goes. One thing we don't want people doing is forcing people to their site. You can invite somebody onto your Facebook site. So you send them a message, say, come see me on my Facebook page. Or on the Election New Brunswick website, they can list their Facebook page. And that's what most of them are using, is the Facebook page. And you click on it and go. So anything that would invite people to it and allowing them to choose you is okay. We can't force people to go to your site, so that's the biggest thing with social media.
Okay, and I know that April 10th is still, we've got 8 days, so we could see a lot of candidates still putting their papers in. When it comes to those nomination papers, what do you still find you have to help people out with?
Most of the signatures, they come in and they want to know, are these signatures right? We have to make sure that everybody who nominates them is eligible to vote for them. Sometimes we have a hard time matching up the face to the address because they've moved or because perhaps they're not a Canadian citizen or for other reasons. We have to go through the New Brunswick voting information system to find out that that person actually exists, they live at the address that's listed, and that they're eligible to vote. So that's the big question as far as the nomination papers. The rest of it's just, where do I sign? Do I have to sign here? Who signs that? So there's one section, the certification to be a candidate. There's always a confusion of who can sign on those papers. Anybody over the age of 18 can sign that paper, right? But there's different rules like that, and they just give us a call and we'll take care of it.
Okay, but the nice thing is for people at home, Jim's here with us all night for as long as this lasts, which won't be over an hour 15. That's what we're hoping to keep it to. So if you have those technical questions, especially surrounding nomination papers, because we want to see a lot of candidates in Southwest New Brunswick, please submit them now. That brings me over to Hollis Bartlett, who is sitting beside me here from the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission. I want to get into what the Service Commission does when it comes to working with local governments. But before we get to that, Hollis, you will be the keeper of the questions coming in from the public, and they can start coming in right now. So tell people at home a little bit about how this works. We can see on your computer all the people who are participating right now, and you and I will be writing those questions down and making sure Natalie either takes it to people on the couch or we answer them up here if it's one of these two panelists as well. So tell people a little bit about what they should expect when it comes to submitting questions.
That's right. So if you're already registered for the webinar and you're on here and we can see your names right now, please use the Q&A button that should be at the bottom of your screen. Webinars are slightly different than your regular Zoom meeting, and that Q&A will get those questions here, and then we can deal with them as they come in. That's going to be the most expedient way of doing this tonight, I think. So just go ahead and do that, type your questions in, and we'll take care of it.
Okay, we're looking forward to getting those questions and having our local representatives give very candid answers to everyone at home. I want to start, though, Hollis, by I think something that everyone in our area could benefit from learning more about, whether they're running or not, is the role of the Service Commission when it comes to local governments. How do they interact? And obviously, we're specifically talking about the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission because that is the one that is relevant to all of us in this region.
So in a nutshell, the Service Commission essentially operates like a nonprofit and offers several services in the region. They're all regional in nature, but that includes operation of the landfill, the planning service, land use planning, building inspection service. We now also, since local governance reform, we do regional economic development, regional tourism promotion, community development. We have a transportation file. There's a variety of things that, and the idea is that local governments can collaborate with each other and in unity do bigger things for the region itself. As it relates to local government, the board of directors that I answer to is made up of all of the mayors in the region. That's in legislation. That's nobody's selected separately. If you are elected mayor, you are a director of the Regional Service Commission by default, and I think that's something people need to understand.
Okay, so it's almost like another council table where the mayors sit around together at the Service Commission.
Yes, but you're a director of a corporation, so there's a little bit of a difference there. So there's different fiduciary responsibilities when you're a director of the Service Commission that are as separate from being a mayor. We operate under our own act, the Regional Service Delivery Act in New Brunswick.
Okay, well, if you have questions for Hollis about the Service Commission and how it interacts with local governments, please submit those questions as well. We are now heading over to Natalie, who is the editor-in-chief of the St. Croix Courier, who is on the couch with our panelists, and she has a few questions to kick off the night.
Thanks, Vicki. We're going to start with Andrea. Can you talk to us about how the provincial government and municipal governments work together and where their mandates sort of cross over?
Sure. So that relationship is just about one of the most important relationships that there is, that relationship between the provincial and the municipal government. And I can't emphasize that enough. In the introduction, one of the responsibilities that got left out was at one point in time, I was the minister responsible for the Regional Development Corporation. And the only thing I can say with that is when you know, you know. So what the Regional Development Corporation is that's the body that funds discretionary funding for the province. And I would argue that's probably the favorite minister of all mayors. And if mayors in our area don't know, they need to know, because that's a critical relationship. So if you're looking for money for a pool or for a tennis court, or maybe because you need funding to help you with economic development, it's often the Regional Development Corporation that you go to. When we talk about how important that relationship is, often we hear from municipalities, if there is stress between the municipalities and the province, you will sometimes hear arguments going back and forth about that's not our responsibility, that's their responsibility. And I get that. I've been married for 30 years, and sometimes in our house, people might say that's mom's responsibility to cook the supper, but I can tell you that it's a whole lot easier when I have somebody setting the table and cleaning the dishes. So even though there are very defined roles, when we work together, we get the job done, and it makes it a whole lot easier.
And you're talking about mandates like housing and healthcare, which sort of have diverged in the last several years.
Absolutely, and it goes beyond that. It's childcare, it's water, it's all of those things. Some of them are divided up to be municipal responsibilities, but they won't get done unless you have the cooperation of the province. And sometimes, and I can tell you as a provincial representative, there were times that I wanted to get things done, but if I didn't have the buy-in of the community, it wasn't going to happen.
A bit of a challenge in that
It's
sense.
a challenge sometimes.
Frank and Ghislaine, I'm going to ask you to talk about the time commitments. What goes into being a councillor, being a mayor? It's not just one meeting a month. Can you talk a little bit about the commitment? Frank, I'll start with you.
I was going to pass the buck to the lady first. I have to say at the outset that everything is a time commitment. And if you're going to give the best to whatever service you're going to do, you have to be prepared to step up to the plate. And I know the phrase is often said around that if you want to get a job done, ask a busy person. And that's exactly true, and I'm sure Andrea would agree with that as well. Because if you really are committed, you're going to be already a busy person. If you're going to expand that to a municipal council in any particular way, or any board or committee that you're working on, you are expected to do the best you can, and that means it's more work. So as someone, I guess, to answer a question that I haven't heard yet, is interested in being on a municipal council, the upcoming municipal elections, and they have tons of time available to them because they don't already do something. That may be something to think about in the choices along the way. I think the busy people are just going to do more, and they will.
Ghislaine?
Well, that's been my life. I've always been, like, I'm a joiner, and I like to be busy. And when I started, like, it was 10 years ago when I had been retired from my job, and I joined council, and actually it wasn't as busy as it is today. And I think you just get more involved and more things come up, and we're like, okay, I'm going to be part of this, right? So, and people will look at my calendar and say, oh my goodness. And I have grandchildren and I have kids, and I have to write down everything, right? Because anyway, and I think you have to be involved with the community, right? People have to see you. Like I don't mind people calling me or discussing things. Like the meeting, we have 2 big meetings of a month, but there's also a lot of other committees that happen, and I mean, I like if I'm not there, I feel I don't know what's going on, so I like to be there. So I'm like Frank, though. I mean, you can expect to be busy, and when somebody says to me, oh, like, I'm so bored, I have nothing to do. Like, I have never lived a day like that in my life. So, and already, like, I am not going to run again, but I've already joined 2 committees that are going to be community-based for when I'm done. So
Haven't quite had enough yet.
no, no, but I just like to. Like, I like to feel that I'm making a difference, right? Maybe I'm not, but.
For both of you, could you talk, I know you just mentioned that, it's been more challenging in the last several years, but I wonder if there's a specific moment that challenged you, but also that you felt was very triumphant and worth it, and that you were proud of?
Well, my beginning in politics was at the council level. I was about 24 years old. At the time, had just moved back to Macadam from teaching a couple of years of school in Woodstock, New Brunswick. My dad had recently passed away, and I had 4 sisters, 3 sisters still in school. And those days, there wasn't a lot of those things to help to make the the life very happy for families who just have a mom who's not employed. And so all of that meant get home and do what you can do because we were a close family. So my first thing I did after I got settled into teaching school in Macadam, I did have an ambition. I wanted to see the community grow and do well. I'm not so sure that I felt at that time that that was the existing feeling of the municipal council. I felt that they were perhaps older, much older than I am, and I felt that perhaps they were just more inclined to be status quo. And that wasn't good enough for me, so I thought I needed to run and see what I could do to make a change. I did run. I don't think I made any change. I think the process was just to be tolerated perhaps for a little while at that young age, and then to eventually move and learn and get better at what I needed to know and to do. So I think it's an eye-opener if you haven't done that before. So for me it was be a team player and get to know all the people because they're all good people. They wouldn't have run for municipal office if they weren't, and they wouldn't be prepared to make a commitment to serve the citizens. And I can add on, the comment is what I always liked about it, it's non-political. So you don't have to only look after a political party of people, you look after everybody. And if that isn't the right intention at the municipal level, don't get there. Because that's what it's all about, is serving everybody. Which is the way it should be for the province and the federal government too. Because once the election's over, we're still the people. And we all need to have the service to the best of our ability. So it was a learning curve for me, and yes, I thought I had something that would eventually happen, and I eventually did. But that took a while.
Giselle?
Okay. As he was speaking, the first time that I ran, actually I really did not know much about it. I had lived out in Mayfield, so we weren't even part of St. Stephen at that point. And I just thought, well, that might be something nice. And like the first time I went to a meeting, I mean, this is before I was elected, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Looked at the agenda, right? 100 pages, right? I'm thinking, and I'm the type of person that has to read every single word, right? And I thought, geez, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But as time went on, I mean, there are people, good people in the office that can answer your questions before you go in, and you just learn as you go. And I've been thinking about it now, thinking that people that are running today, some of them, I mean, because all the council meetings are on television and so on. And there's so much information on social media, not all of it correct. And I'm thinking, if I was the same person, if they were like me when I started off, I'm thinking there's no way that I would go anywhere near that because there's way too much, right? So, and I want to say to people that are out there that feel they're not qualified, if they care, they are qualified, and they will learn as they go. People will help them. So I would like to encourage people, because if it were me trying to apply for the first time, I don't think I'd go anywhere near that. And I'm sure there's lots of people that could do a great job.
Jim, you're offering a different perspective here. I wonder how you could talk about how the rural districts differ from local governments.
Well, we know that if you live in southwestern New Brunswick, you either live in a municipality or you live in the rural district. Now, municipalities all have their councils, their mayors, but the rural district is set up a little bit differently, where for the entire 3,200 people that are represented in the rural district, you have 3 representatives from 3 wards that sit together on the Rural District Advisory Committee. And from those 3, then the committee chooses a chair, and the chair takes the place of a mayor and actually sits on the Regional Service Commission as a director. So we do have a voice on that forum. when you compare it to municipalities, you could say are small and tightly well knit together, but the rural district is spread out so wide that my particular ward stretches from Flume Ridge to Bocabec, over to Penfield and up to Bonnie River. So
Wow.
do I ever get to meet the people in my ward? Not really. Do they know who I am? Some of them probably don't even know they have a representative. So I think if anyone's interested in getting involved, I think they really should consider whether or not they'd like to take a seat on local government, be part of the decision making, and see what moving forward can do. The rural district is now in the middle of a review, and what happens with rural district government will be coming out. It could be changing over the next year. That depends on the review.
And what have you found valuable about being part of the rural district?
The connections that I made, the people I've met, the interconnections, whether you're from Campobello or whether you're from Macadam, we can find things in common to talk about. I work closely with the mayors on the Regional Service Commission. Sometimes we don't agree. Some things I look at from a different perspective than a municipal government would. But they listen, and we have good discussions.
We're going to throw it back over to Vicki to see if you have any questions.
Wow, well, it was an exciting kickoff to tonight with Natalie taking the first round of questions to the panel. We have your questions coming in from at home as well, so we're going to kick off with that. But first, Hollis, I'd love to just clarify for people at home who are submitting questions. It's not via the chat option, and since this is my first webinar and you are a pro at this, tell us a little bit about how questions are submitted exactly. It's through a Q&A?
Yeah,
Okay.
I wouldn't say that I'm a pro.
Okay.
just to clarify. But yeah, so there's the regular chat that you might be used to on Zoom, but there's a Q&A button, and that's where the questions are coming in. And we are getting quite a few of them right now. So
It's very exciting. There are people that I see have already submitted their papers that are in our webinar tonight, and some people that I know are considering running. So it's a great group that is online. And we've had a question that I think is both for Jim and Hollis as well. So here is one to kick things off over here at the news desk. This question comes from Ron. He wants to know, and I think this might relate a little bit to what Jim on the couch is saying, who represents the Wawig area? Do they have representation on the RSC board? And where do we vote if this is an option? And who is the chair of the RSC board? That's 4 questions in one, so I'll hand this your way for you both to break this down. I'll start with you, Hollis.
yep, I think I can take all of these
Okay.
actually. So, so the Wawig area is going to end up in rural district. Do they have representation on the RC board? Yes. Currently, that's Jim Tubbs. He's the chair of that committee. Where do we vote? That's going to be a you question. And who is the chair of the RC board is a good question. What happens is we elect a chair. The board elects its own chair annually at our AGM.
Okay. And Jim, over to you for where, if someone lives in Wawig, do they vote?
The polling stations are still in transition, but during advanced polls, I believe they're going to be in Bocabec United Church.
Okay.
And during the ordinary polls, they'll be there. Ordinary means May 11th. They'll be either there or I believe it's Rolling Dam.
Okay. All right. So all those kind of questions, especially if you are wanting to ask these very specific regional questions, that's what tonight is all about. This is an event for the Southwest. We appreciate if you are watching from elsewhere too. Jim has something to add.
And there'll be voter information cards coming out. They'll be coming out around the end of about the 21st to the 27th of April. And on that will state, this is where you vote.
Okay.
Yep.
I think I might have a question that you might want to touch on before we throw it over to the couch. Is there an outline job description for the mayor position duties of a specific municipality that the individual is offering? Well, let's just say that. Is there a specific description for each municipality for the mayor's job?
A lot of the job descriptions are in stone at the different municipalities. See, if you really want to know exactly what's going on, you have to kind of check out that. But I know on the Elections of Brunswick website, there is for candidates, and his local government and DEC, the District Educational Council, and you click on those, it'll give you some job descriptions or what each one involves.
Okay, and I think this is a question that I'm going to throw over to the couch, along with another question that's come in for Natalie to ask. But when it came to your job, all of you over on the couch, how did you first get acquainted with what the role was exactly? Tell us a little bit about that.
Start with Andrea.
Sure, that's an easy answer for me. As soon as I took the position, I actually made an effort to call every previous Attorney General, Minister of Justice, Minister of RDC, and it didn't matter to me what their political stripes were, and say, what am I in for? Before I got involved, I also had lengthy conversations with people like Greg Thompson. I talked with Sheldon Lee. I wanted to know what the job was really about. I had an idea, but you have to remember there are people that came before you, there are people who did this job before you, and there will be people who do this job after you. Lean on those people who came before you. They're always willing to talk, and they're always willing to give advice, and then maintain those relationships.
Frank?
Well, I certainly have to say, first off, I leaned pretty heavily on the Municipal Act, which was governing municipalities. And there is an act under the legislation of the province, so you know what the formation is, how your conduct and your business needs to be conducted. In fact, over my 36 years as mayor of Macadam, I served on that committee with the provincial government, I think 3 times, when that act was being rewritten and redrafted, and so I really got to know it fairly well on several fronts, and it was an interesting thing to be doing along with other people. So that was the first thing. You should really know what you're in for, and like Andrea, don't be afraid to talk to people that came before you, especially in municipalities or the local communities that we live in, no matter where we are. We all believe in the same thing. We want our communities to be a good place to live. So whoever was there elected before are usually very willing to help you to get into the seat that you have got elected to. And if they're not, then that's another whole story. But most people are willing to do that and help you. You can take and leave from what you hear, but you can also at least know what's been going on in the background.
Ghislaine?
And it's basically the same, the same answer. But also when I first was elected to council, there was already like 4 people that were re-elected. So they were really a good source of people to go to. And again, like the staff, the people that work there, I mean, we were only there for 4 years, but some of them have been there 10, 20 years, right? So they're very good people to get information from. And also the districts have also had training after, you know, after we were elected. And I know that the municipality of St. Stephen has planned quite extensive training. And I almost would like to go, but...
An orientation package is what they're planning. Yeah,
yes.
yes.
So that's really good.
Jim?
Well, until January of 2023, there wasn't actually any rural districts anywhere in the province. So it was quite a learning process. We met as a committee. We weren't sure exactly. We looked at the government mandates of what we were supposed to do, and we had to decide on our own how we were going to operate, how we were going to meet, and we worked with the Rural District Advisory Manager closely, and we developed a program that seems to fit pretty well, and we have an established procedures going forward for the next people that come into the job.
So we're going to start the next question with Jim. What was your favorite accomplishment while you served your community in public office?
Ooh, a couple of good ones. Regionally, there's a program called Fire Smart, and the concept of Fire Smart was thrown out to municipalities as an option, and it came to the rural district, and the rural district fire chiefs were kind of interested in it, but no one had the signing authority to take it on. So I went through my contacts with Regional Service Commission. Is this something that could be done regionally? And the answer was yes. Everyone bought in, and as a result, we have the reports coming out at the beginning of a complete report for every municipality and the rural district on how to prepare for being a safer community. And it's coming out in a few months.
Ghislaine?
Well, I don't have any that stands out, but a lot of the activities and the events that took place while I was on council have
I
been
might
really
suggest the healthcare recruitment.
great. Okay, well, again, that's still on my
Concerted effort.
right, and I mean, again, that's something that we work with the province, and that's one thing that I'd like to continue on with, because I know that, like, our clinic is coming in January 2027, but I would, and I guess I can say this on here, what I'd like to do, because I realize it does take time, but in the meantime, the clinic at the hospital is way too small. We're not getting enough people seeing the doctor, and I'd like to see if the province would be interested in maybe leasing something while we're waiting for the clinic to open, and so that they can build their team. I mean, if we wait, because we do have doctors that are interested in coming, but there's no room for them right now. So that was, but I mean, I knew it was provincial, but that's been my favorite thing.
That's where those paths converge.
Yes, right.
Frank, an accomplishment you're proud of.
Well, I guess back to where I began is with trying to have growth in the community, and successfully I got to witness and participate in so much of that. Not because, and I want to make it very clear, I participated in that with council, with the voted members, with the province, federal government. Macadam went through some good times, and Macadam went through some bad times. I was the lead hand in working with the province in bringing to Macadam an industry that employed 250 people in the building of plywood. And unfortunately, the lifespan of that was about 10 or 12 years, and I had the very unfortunate position of watching it leave and go away and losing many things that we had built up. I got to be part of new schools being placed there with the province, and that was another success story. So all of those things, no matter what they were. And then later on, I saw the loss of the Southwest New Brunswick department, and I saw the loss of a hospital become a clinic, and the disadvantages of those kinds of things in the level of services that you have in your community. So it's all an up and a down, and the small communities, municipalities have lots of those. So it's how you work together with the community to make that process work.
Andrea, how about you?
So right away, all the items that came flying through my head were projects that I had worked on with municipalities. Every time I cross over the Harbor Bridge, when you look over to the right, you see the Fundy Quay, you see the skyline changing. I was thrilled to be part of that. And it was a conversation with the city, with the federal government, and with the stakeholder. And there was a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of effort that went into that. Even when I look at the port, some of the investments that we were able to be part of there, we have totally changed the skyline, but that could only be done with the cooperation of all those people at the table working together. We didn't always agree, but we knew that we wanted to move things forward. And when I think more closer to Charlotte County, there's projects like the Whitehead Community Center. We've changed that community. What a proud thing. And they just keep going. The funding that I saw go to Macadam, the funding that I saw go to St. Andrews, because I was privileged enough that I got to work with communities all around the province. And yeah, it makes me proud when I drive around and I see the changes that we made. But here's the thing you have to remember, is that when you are there at council, first of all, I have so much respect for councillors. They have the hardest job in the world, and they get the least amount of credit. They are closest to the action, but they are probably the most powerful players on the provincial scene, because they're the ones who really get the work done. They're the ones who get the projects going, and then they get the buy-in. So just remember how important it is that everybody works together, everybody on your team, and with all the different layers of government.
We're going to turn it back over to Vicki.
I get very emotional being in this room today because these are people who have shaped your community. These are people who came out tonight because they believe in the power of democracy, and they're dedicating their time tonight to make sure you, the potential candidates, are as informed as you can be before you take on what could be the most fascinating and interesting chapter of your life. So I want to thank them again for being here. I'm an easy cry though, so I'm going to try not to. We have a few questions that have come in from the public, and again, please keep submitting them throughout the night. It doesn't matter if it is directed to one person or to everyone. One question though that I think will factor into people's lives no matter what are things like conflict of interest. I'm going to pass this over to the couch soon too, but Jim, I'd like to start with you. Are there things, if you are a candidate, that you might have to give up or might make you ineligible, for instance, if you work for your community in some kind of way, or if you sit on a certain board?
Yeah, well, if you want to run for municipality, you cannot be an employee of the municipality for obvious reasons. Anything that puts you into conflict of interest. If you're a local government, like even an MLA can't run for it because you are your own boss, kind of thing. So we have to watch those kinds of things. So you can't be the employee. You can't be a local government official. I mean, what else? There was something else. But yeah, anything if it gets conflict of interest, there's an issue. You have to make sure that you excuse yourself. And just like in the old days when if you were a teacher, if you wanted to run for an MLA, you had to get a leave of absence from being a teacher.
Okay, all right. Well, we are going to send that question over to the couch to see what our panelists may have had to give up or to step away from while they were serving.
Are there things, the question from the desk to the couch is, are there things that you had to give up in order to serve your community? Andrea, we'll start with you.
My first reaction was my life. You do. You literally give a part of you, a huge part of you, to your community. And it doesn't just affect you, but it also affects your family members. And though that may sound very discouraging, it's actually very exciting and it's very rewarding. So I think in that regard, it's really important to also have strong support at home. I couldn't have done it without my husband and my kids supporting me through it, because you give so much of yourself. You can't go to the grocery store that people don't stop you and engage with you. And that might seem like a pain, but it's also part of the joy, because the greatest gift I think that you get from public service is really getting to know the community and the people, your neighbors. You get to know them in a new way. They disclose to you the deepest things that they're dealing with, and you also get the reward of being able to help them. So you do give up a part of your life, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Frank?
Andrea's got it sized up. At the municipal level, it's very similar, but it's a far cry from what Andrea's expressing, because I'm sure what happens at the provincial and federal level is just got to be extremely strenuous on your time, the values of home, because you're on the road, you're not in the community you live in. There's so much that you have to give up, and I understand that. And I can also say we did a great job. So doing all of that is a big, big commitment. And I've considered that many, many times, but I thought, I can handle this right in my back dooryard. That's my answer.
Ghislaine?
Well, I feel the same way. And, but what I must say, my family was really proud of what I was doing, right? And I remember when I first came on, my grandson, who was only 4 years old, came when we were inducted in and so on. And he said, I want to be a mayor when I grow up. So I thought he was quite impressed. And on November 5th, when they go to school dressed on career day, he had to wear a tie. And so I said to Mayor McEachern, you have to wear a tie, right? Which he doesn't. But anyway, it is a time commitment. But and I have family all over the place. And I was visiting up in northern New Brunswick, and I actually did an interview, and I did it in French. And anyway, they had seen me on television, and I felt a little bit important, right? They knew me there. So, but it is a time. A time commitment. So
When those kids grow up, my son at 16 said, I don't want to be a mayor when I grow up.
Well, he's 14 now. He hasn't said.
Don't re-ask him.
Jim, you?
can't think of anything that a person would necessarily have to give up, but I think that everyone has to take a strong, hard look and say, is there anything that might, if I'm sitting on a council or on a committee, is there anything that would put me in a conflict of interest? And being able to recognize that and say, if the discussion comes up to a certain topic, then I have to know, I have to declare a conflict of interest, I have to withdraw from this discussion, and the discussion can go on without you. But it's acknowledging that you might conceivably be in a conflict of interest somewhere down the line.
This is going to be a good question for all of you. How did you work with other council members, or in your case, other MLAs, when you have disagreed on achieving a community goal?
Oh, start at the other end of the table.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Jim, go ahead.
Well, actually, we don't disagree. Our committee has developed something called consensus. So there's only 3 of us. So having hard votes is rather ridiculous. So we work on consensus. It's like, if you can't live with this, what adjustment makes it livable for you? And when we have an issue or something that we had to decide upon, or position that we wanted to take, if everyone was in consensus to what it would be, then we would move on from there.
Well, for me, I found when we disagreed on something, like a phone call or a meeting, private meeting, was, and in the end you could agree to disagree, right? But like, I didn't want to bring that out in public or anything like that, right? I mean, so
Reaching
I
out.
didn't, and I found it easier as we went on, because at first it was like, oh, you need to stay away from that person, and you can't discuss it with other people either, right? But I found if I just reached out and we had a discussion, and in the end, life goes on, right?
Frank?
The ultimate answer to that, in my opinion, is work together, resolve, negotiate, give and take a little. You're hearing that, and that's what it's all there. And at the end of the day, be prepared to speak together in one voice to everybody you speak to as one voice, whether it's in your community, and even more importantly, when you land in that government office or that meeting with governments, whatever, that you're united. Because if you are not united and the people don't know that you're not united, and they already know that, you're fighting a losing battle right from the start. So partner, negotiate, compromise, do whatever you have to do, but get yourself on the same page. If you have to stall it, delay it, give more time to think, whatever works, but you're no good not functioning as a team. And if you ever meet with government at any level, or anybody that's a potential partner that's going to invest a couple $2 billion in your community, and you're not on the same page, you can kiss all that stuff goodbye, because you're not together. And if you're not together, your community knows it, and they're not together with you.
I know a lot of communities that would love a couple $1 billion. I think, Andrea, your turn has finally come.
Yes. Well, you do have to choose your battles. Yeah. Somebody brought something up to me the other day, and I thought back on the issue, and I said, oh yeah, I actually didn't agree with that. But nobody knew that I didn't agree with it. But it was one of those things that I was like, you know what, I don't agree with this, but I can let it go. And everybody knows there were other times where I said, oh, I draw a hard line right here. So you have to choose your battle, and not every conversation is a battle. I'm also a little bit unique and different in the fact that I come from a legal background. So I also came from a situation where I was used to going into a room every day, fighting really hard with the person across the desk from me or across the hall from me. And then at lunchtime we would break and say, hey, you want to go grab, something to eat? Don't take it personal. One thing I've learned about when you disagree with someone, I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as an opportunity to learn. But when you come out on the other side, don't take it personal. Keep it professional, and also keep it off of social media. It doesn't need to be there.
This question sort of overlaps, I think, with the first one from this part. But what was the most difficult part for you when it came to holding public office? We'll start with Jim.
Greatest difficulty is the way we're established is that I don't have much I don't have much communication with the people that I represent, and it's very hard to get in rural New Brunswick and Southwest. There's very few places where people can get together to meet, and the rural district doesn't have much. It doesn't have halls. It doesn't have businesses. There's a vacuum out there, and dealing with that, and then trying to make contact with people all across the region so that you know that if something comes up that deals with Whitehead Island, then I know I get a phone number I can call and say, hey, what's happening? You know, I think that was the hardest part.
Ghislaine?
Well, I think the hardest part was learning what it was all about, right? Because it seemed like every week there was something new coming up that I didn't really have information on. And I'm a teacher, right? So it's like I have to know things. So there was a lot of reading, a lot of questioning people so that I could understand, you know, what I could do and what I couldn't do. And it went on for the whole 10 years. And I still could learn a few things.
Frank?
I think you need to realize when you're elected, mayor, councillors, or even committee members who are serving the new format that we know now that Jim's aware of, that he's working with. And every one of those have limitations. And we have to realize, yeah, you're the mayor, you're the chief magistrate, you think of the village in a particular way, and you think you have rights. Well, you do, but they're limited. They're what rights you do have. You don't run everybody's life, no matter where we are and what we're doing. And you have to realize that. And council members the same way. We all have to realize that we have things we have say over. But over the years, for me, I can remember going back and looking at things like industrial development. No municipality handled their own municipal industrial development or their economic recoveries. Those were all in the hands of government. So you had to get your act together and talk to the right people. That was a different program. Same as healthcare. We don't decide on whether we keep hospitals open or closed or health cares. We don't even decide whether we get an ambulance parked in our community or 75 miles down the road. We don't have those says. So if you're running in an upcoming election and you think you're going to have governance over any of these things, absolutely not. Your limitations are within what's mandated within the realm of where you are. Know what that is and do something about it. The other takes working with other partners, whether it be government or individuals along the way.
Andrea, how about you?
So I'm going to tag on to that. I'm a fixer by nature. And so when people come to me with problems, I want to fix them. And I suppose that's probably what has led me into the careers that I've been in. And I think the hardest thing that I faced was there were times when people would come to see me and I couldn't help them. I felt like my hands were tied. I was elected during COVID, and this is, Vicki, I'm going to get emotional on this one here. There were times when people were calling me and they wanted to just be with their loved ones in the hospital when they were passing, and there was absolutely nothing that I could do. Or when people were calling me up looking for health care and saying, can you just bump me up on the list? Can you move me to the top of the list? And we're restricted as to what we can actually accomplish, or even knowing that maybe if you could get that person up on the list, it means that other people are going to fall behind. So the hardest part was having those relationships with people, feeling the emotion, and knowing that you actually couldn't help them, that your hands were tied. That was the hardest part.
We're going to send it back over to the desk.
I just want to say that when Andrea was talking about that you give a lot of your life to being a part of public office, I want to acknowledge that she isn't lying. She's here to be a supporter of local democracy and making sure that you are informed, but it's also her husband, Rick Mason's birthday, and he is in our studio audience tonight, and he was willing to be a part of it. So to show you that the family is on board for all of this, happy birthday, Rick. If you hear any rounds of applause, it's Rick here in our studio audience. But we're heading back over here to the news desk where I have a question which I believe, Jim, you'll probably be able to answer this one. What process is at the polls to verify a voter who has limited identification to meet the requirements to be allowed to vote? And I can sadly probably tell you a first-hand experience story of my own, but I'll let you take this one away.
If it's a first-time voter, somebody who's not registered, they must have identification. The identification has to have a picture and their signature, their current residence. And their name, I guess the picture's optional, but I would think driver's license is perfect. It's the gold standard. So if you have a driver's license, you're good. But if we have your name, your current address, and your signature, we can register you as long as you live within the area. You know, so from St. John, we can't go to a polling station in Boquebec to vote. So we have to do that. So if you don't have that information, we can't register you. That's why we suggest everybody come in ahead of time to the office at 51 King Street. Say, this is what I want to register. How do I do it? This is what you need. They can go off and do it. Now, that being said, we have homeless people who don't have that information. And there's different areas, like in St. Stephen, it's the Neighborhood Works and the food banks. They're going to receive papers that say that these people receive service at those places. And they can use those as their home address. And they can go to the poll station and vote using that as their identification for their home address.
Okay, and I have had someone vouch for me before.
There is a vouching process.
Okay.
Yep. The vouching process is a little different in provincial as it is in municipal, but it's all done in the poll pad, which is good. And you can have somebody come in, and if they know you, they have to be eligible to vote. They have to be registered, and so on and so forth. And then they can say, yes, this is my neighbor. I know them. They sign a paper swearing I am who I am. They are who they are. And then you go through the process of signing off on that. Yes, there is a voting process.
Okay, so on election day, if your friends haven't voted, there are many ways you can get them to the polls. And yes, me, your local news girl, I have had to have someone vouch for me before, but that was just to make sure I got my vote in. I have a question. We're going to start it up here at the news desk and then bring it over to the couch. Is there provincial legislation I should read before I run? What resources do I use to better understand how to be a good counselor? Hollis.
Yeah, and it depends on what you're running for. So if you're running for council or mayor, there's always the Local Governance Act. But if you are a mayor candidate, and so you're going to end up as a director of the Regional Service Commission, there's also the Regional Service Delivery Act to be familiar with.
Okay, and then on that note, we will head over to the couch. And I know that you've touched on this before over on the couch, so if you want to take it away with a different question, feel free. We are at 6:52 right now, so making great time.
I think the Local Governance Act is probably a good place to start. Might also recommend the Community Planning Act. These are really great questions that we've got here. What is the best way to interact with municipal staff? I guess in Andrea's case, it'd be the public service, but and how will I know what their role is versus what my role is on council? Frank.
Well, depending upon the situation, there are some government departments that you have a regular contact with. So a councillor may have a relationship with a rep of that department or a service. It could be even with the Regional Service Commission or something that you're dealing with on a local basis. That's not particularly a major issue. A major issue would usually be a director of a department or a government, whatever, and if you are working on negotiating some things that you're waiting for that are taking time and you want to follow up on that, that's okay. Councillors should work with the mayor, and the leading person, the mayor, should then go to the employee that is with the department that you're waiting for the response, because then it's the mayor that can say after the 5th phone call, I got to get my call into Andrea, because she's the minister of that department and I know she's going to get on top of this. So that is a direction that comes from one top person to the other top. It shouldn't be a councillor that's doing, or a member of a team that's doing that. you want that to be where you're going to get the best response. So to follow the procedure at the local level is just as important as at the provincial or the federal level.
Ghislaine?
So you're talking about after people are elected?
The
Probably.
Yes,
Yes,
and
okay.
maybe with the CAO or
Right.
your director of recreational services.
Right. I mean, if it's the counselor, I mean, maybe if they haven't been in touch with the mayor, but they could actually call like the office and ask to speak to the CAO's assistant. He has an assistant, and she could direct him. I mean, whether they need to go see the CAO, and the CAO could direct them to where they could go. And I mean, if it's not something that, like often I've gone to see him and said, well, I'd like to do this. Like, what direction should I follow? Well, he can lead me that way, right? And so I think they're very open to that. And when they do have their orientation, these people will be there to give them direction on that. But you wouldn't want to see a counselor all of a sudden call the province about an issue, right? Yeah, right. We need to have people involved. And I mean, sometimes the answer is very simple, what you can do or where you can go.
Shout out to Celeste Caswell. That's the
Yes,
Jeff
yes,
Renaud's
yes.
executive assistant.
And
Jim, I mean, I don't know that you really have it like a CAO, but I guess
We have one major, well, we have the rural district manager and his assistant. That's our complete staff. Usually, if there's a question, it would come through a committee member back to me, and I would go to the rural district manager. Although there's nothing that prevents one of them, if something comes up and they have a concern or a question or something, then they can flash it straight through to the rural district manager. Everyone knows that he's available. But it's always nice to let others know so that we can keep in the loop. It's always important to keep in the loop of what everyone's doing so that we know we're all working for the same purpose.
just to further the question, Andrea, you would expect to hear from a mayor of a municipality if you were a minister at the provincial level on an issue.
Okay, well, that's really interesting because I had a local mayor say to me once, we never hear from you, we never see you. And I would say that's because I've got so many other mayors from other parts of New Brunswick who are lined up outside my office that I can't get back to, where you are. It is so important. I can't say it enough. Part of the job of mayor is kind of like the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, right? It is to be a lobbyist. It is to be at the table or at the door as much as you possibly can be. And one of the, I heard someone mention earlier, the Union of Municipalities. Every chance that you get to be part of anything that they host, be there. They've got, I know their AGM is coming up, I believe the first week of October, and if you are so lucky to be elected, you make sure you are there in October.
This is a great question, and I think this is in the political times that we're in, this is a great question. What's your rule of thumb when it comes to social media, from posting to having a professional page to commenting and interacting? How do you keep yourself out of trouble while staying connected, Andrea?
3 strikes and you're out. That's how it worked for me. Is I would comment 3 times. And after 3 times, didn't matter if I liked what the person said or not, I knew I wasn't commenting again. That was it. Mrs. Wheaton, and you'll always be Mrs. Wheaton because she was a teacher for me. So Mrs. Wheaton made the comment that social media often has misinformation on it. And I would be amazed. I was on social media all the time because it was the way that I felt very connected with the community. Most of the people I was elected with, they were not on social media. So I think I was definitely the exception. But I would be amazed at the stuff that I would see on there, the misinformation, the misunderstanding. So I actively engaged, and I think that you have to be in this day and age. You got to be involved. But 3 strikes and you're out.
Frank, Ghislaine, anything to add on social media?
No social media.
And when I say out, I have to tell you, I never blocked anybody, ever. I never blocked anyone. You never block anyone. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't have. I never used it during any of my time in teaching school or anything else. No social media. I'm not interested in any of it. Some people would call me, did you know this was here, this was there? No, and I really am not interested at all. And I think for me, I feel a lot better about those people because it didn't get to me. And I can meet them and they'll say something different and maybe they will never let on they said something, they cooled off.
Yeah.
I don't want to know, and I just don't have any use for it.
You're talking about, critical, maybe mean comments that people are making about.
Just don't want to hear it. If they want to come and talk to me, I'm available, and everybody knew that. So if there were some that were there, but I still don't use social media. I don't have anything on social media. Now I have my cell phone on because I got my wife with me tonight, and she's down enjoying the nightlife of St. Andrews. So based on that, I'm worried about her a little, so I just...
I gotta keep, yeah.
Well, I want to say about social media, like people voting, don't forget the population like Frank, because they're the big voters, you know. And I know a lot of the seniors. I belong, like in my church, there's a lot, and they believe in voting. They'll be there to vote. So if you're just advertising or campaigning on social media, they're not going to see you. So go talk to them, right? So,
Jim?
Our committee looked at social media. We were looking at having a rural district page or a website, and we just eventually decided that we would not try it in this term. It's come up for review again, the next group that's there. But it was found that there's an awful lot of negativity that if you open things up, if you let people, trying to inform people is sometimes just a way that seems like it agitates them so that they have to respond negatively. And there's only so much negative response that you can take.
Back over to you, Vicki.
All right, another great social media strategy that I love is post and ghost. Just post it and don't obsess over it. Just leave it for a while. Also, other people will likely defend you in the comments. You don't really need to do it yourself. Don't waste your time. Post what you need to post, but don't spend your time obsessing. It's not good for you. We have a clarification you'd like to make, Jim, about voter ID.
Yeah, you mentioned about the vouching situation that you were in. My guess is that was a federal election?
I believe it was, yeah.
If you are registered in the province of New Brunswick at your current home, you need 0 ID to vote. Okay. And a lot of people come with all their ID and they're ready to vote. No, I need this, and I'll show you that. If you're registered, you're in the system, we'll call you up on the screen, ask you to repeat your name and address, you're good to go. If you show up with your VIC, your voter information card, that process is extremely quick. If you don't, then, well, there's a little step you have to go through, and they just clarify who you are. But if you have your card, you're ready to go, it's a scan, tab, boom, you're gone to vote, you're in and out in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So make sure you bring the voter information card. You do not need ID if you're already registered. If you want to change your address, yes. If you're a first-time voter, yes, we need identification. That's when you said vouching, I thought, I bet that was a federal election.
I believe that was a federal election.
The federal election does require identification.
I think I had just moved home. It was something like that. I have another question for you, though, that came in from someone online. What is the process for housebound citizens voting in a local election?
Yeah. We have at our office special voting officers. And all you have to do is contact the local office, and they will help you fill out a special ballot application. We can either send it to you, email it to you, or you can have somebody drop into the office and pick it up. And you fill out a special ballot, and then we call you, organize a time which we can come to the house. We'll bring the poll pad right there and the ballot box right there, and take care of you in-house. Wow. And it's just a matter of making an appointment, and we set you up, and away we go. Just don't wait until election day, because sometimes we're a little busy on election day. So before then would be good. And we can start those anytime after the 20th of April.
Well, as we get into, we've gone past an hour mark, so we're getting into the final end of today's event. But I really want to take a moment to thank everyone who came to be a part of this panel, to the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission for co-hosting with us this important event. We've never done something prior to the nomination papers being due, and this way we really felt like we were able to reach people who might be considering voting and to really get people who have been on the fence but would be great representing their community, the information they need to maybe get those papers in by April 10th, 2 p.m. And I understand, Jim, 2 p.m. is a hard deadline. There's no 2:05.
Hard deadline. We can accept the application at 2, but if anything needs to be fixed, you're out of luck. It has to be in and perfect by 2 o'clock. We can take in all, like 10 of them at 2 o'clock and then go through them at 2:15 or 2 o'clock, sorry, and then 2:15. But if we find any mistakes, they're null and void. They have to be perfect at 2 o'clock sharp.
All right, so again, if you at home are thinking about running, it's time. You've got 8 days from the point of this going on and counting down till April 10th. I want to give everyone here tonight who took the time out of your weeks to come here and to better inform Southwest New Brunswick about what it takes to represent your community. I'd love to give everyone, before we end with Natalie's presentation on how to interact with the media if you are in local office. That's about a 10-minute presentation that will further expand on what we've talked about when it comes to social media, but it'll also highlight how you do interviews, who does interviews, and what that process is, things like off the record, what that means. So stay tuned for that as well. But as we wrap up in here in the studio, I'll start with Jim. I'd love just to have final words for people at home as we head towards the May 11th election.
The key thing that I came here with was to promote a few locations that are struggling to get councillors.
Okay.
McAdam's still got some vacancies. Graham and Ann's got a lot of vacancies. Campbello, I heard some rumblings, so I think we're going to be okay there, but there's still some vacancies there. So those are places that we'd like to see some more nominations come out.
And I'm going to give you one more before you wrap that up too, before you wrap up your thoughts. St. Andrews, we have, as of the taping of this, just 4 people have put their names forward for council seats. So I think St. Andrews could do a lot better too.
Yeah, it's nice to have a contest. I mean, if you have somebody in there, at least there's somebody. But it's nice to have that democratic process happen. That's always nice.
Right, and again, like highlight the acclamation process too. What happens if we don't have people running and don't need to vote?
Yeah, if there's a spot, then there's only one candidate and one position, then they'll eventually, not right away, but they'll eventually be acclaimed. We have to wait till after Election Day when we declare victories, right? Declare the actual candidate who won, and then we'll declare the acclamations at that time. Okay,
and I'll let you finish your final thoughts, Jim Higgins with Elections New Brunswick, because I cut you off to shame St. Andrews.
Just for those that want to vote, advanced polls are going to be the 2nd and the 4th of May. And they're going to be in your local areas. Just when you get your voter information card, check that out. And they're going to be on May 11th, and there'll be more wide-ranging poll stations for that. And you can vote at the returning office at 51 King Street in St. Stephen. Anytime after April the 20th, we should be getting our special ballot permission after that, because the nominations will be closed and we'll be ready to print off ballots. We have a ballot on demand system, so we can handle any voter in the entire province of New Brunswick from the 20th on. And after about the 28th, we'll actually have our physical ballots that we can use. So you can vote there Monday to Friday, 9 to 7, Saturday 10 to 5, right up until 8 o'clock on May the 11th. Now, unlike poll stations, if you go to the poll stations, if you're in line at 8 o'clock, they're going to let you vote. If you're in line at 8 o'clock at the returning office, you got to be there before 8 o'clock, because we shut down at 8 o'clock because we have to start processing the ballots and stuff that are coming in.
Okay, well, Jim Higgins from Elections New Brunswick, thank you so much for taking time to spend with us here in the studio and to spend with everyone at home. We appreciate it so much.
Thanks for asking.
And Hollis Bartlett, CEO of the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission, I want to thank you. This was your idea. We've never done an event this early before an election, and it was an honor and a privilege to do this beside you. I'm really pleased with how it turned out and the number of people that participated in terms of being a part of the webinar. Again, the people in this room tonight, it's just a special feeling when you realize these people, all of us, Jim and you as well, myself, Natalie, these are all people, also the people behind the camera here, volunteering their time to better serve democracy in Southwest New Brunswick. So Hollis, as we close out tonight, what are your final thoughts for people at home as we get towards the date for the nomination papers being due, but also the election itself?
Well, thank you for helping me make this happen too. I think it's really important that we talk to the population generally. There's a lot of confusion around local elections and the difference between local and provincial and federal elections and what that impact is. So the more of this that we can do, the more information we can get to people. Information is power. So that was the intent of tonight. So yeah, thank you for helping me make this work. For those that are running for mayor, that may be a new mayor, like I said, you are automatically a director of the Regional Service Commission, but don't fret, because before you are in there making big decisions, there's going to be an orientation session. There's going to be some training and some stuff before you get there. And I believe there's going to be orientation for council members anyway. I know that it's not mandatory, and we saw that recently, but strongly recommended. It really is worth undertaking.
Oh, 100%. We would like to advocate for that as well. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Thank you for this incredible idea. I think this is something, it clearly was successful given the number of people that have participated tonight. I hope this is something that we do from the future going forward. I'm going to head over to the couch now with Natalie, who will say thank yous to all our panelists over there.
You all for answering those questions. This has been really great and really informative. I'll go from Andrea around to Jim on your final thoughts.
Oh, I don't know if my thoughts are encouraging or discouraging, but I'll do my best. Anyone can run for council and mayor. Not everyone should. It is incredibly time-consuming, and it's not necessarily what you think that it is, because what we see in politicians these days is we see them at birthday parties with certificates and cupcakes, and it's so much more than that. I've gotten some calls in the last few weeks, even from people, I think when the tax bills came out, people asking me questions, and I was digging into the details. If you have a passion for taxation, this is the job for you.
Sounds right, yeah.
I don't know if that sounds exciting to everybody, but you know, it is a little bit exciting to me. But especially in this round, because what we've heard from the provincial government is that they are looking at tax reform, which very much affects our municipalities. So this is the time more than ever that we need those individuals who have knowledge, capability, to engage in those conversations, because it is going to have such a significant impact on the future of New Brunswick. People ask me all the time, I bet you're happy to be out of politics, and I say no, I loved it, enjoyed so much of it, almost every single aspect of it. I still believe in the possibilities. So if you're a person who believes in the possibilities, then go for it, because you have such opportunity to change your community. And when you're municipal, it's not just changing your community, you are changing your province, you are making changes for the future. And so get involved.
I might also say municipal reform is also still happening. So you might get to shape how municipalities get their money. So that's also an exciting avenue to take. Frank?
I don't think they get very much money.
No, 85% actually comes from property taxes.
Oh, you
right?
sure?
So, yeah. So if property taxes get you excited, and they do, because I see social media, then put your name on a ballot. Yeah.
I agree with Andrea. If you live in part of this province and you're in a community, whether it be a rural, a smaller area, or a municipality, or whatever, you're part of it, and you need to be part of it. And if you can find the time and the energy and the interest to endeavor to run for a seat on council or mayor, or within the other areas, whatever the categories are, a representative of that region, do it. Yeah, you might get defeated. Didn't hurt me any. I think I had twice of those in my career, and I'm still kicking. So if I'm still kicking at this age, you guys have got lots to look forward to. So it's no harm. Get out and get involved. And if you don't want to get involved at that level, at the very least, get involved at committee levels in the community. Get involved when the public meetings are offered. Have your voice. Make your concerns known. You're part of it, whether you want to be or not. And if you don't like what it is, the place to share that is in the right spot, with the right room, with the right people. So do just exactly that.
Ghislaine?
Thanks.
Well, I think they've said it all, really. But I want to say there's been a lot of reward. Like, it's been exciting being on council. I mean, there are challenges. I mean, but I have grown as a person, and I think anyone that's willing to put their place in there, go for it.
Jim?
Well, first, I hope that there are people out there that really think that they could contribute, and if they think they can contribute, then they probably should go get some nomination papers and become a candidate. In the last election, the very first one for Rural District, 2 of the 3 councillors were elected by acclamation. So that means there was only one person that put their name forward in each of those 2 wards. Hopefully, We'll see elections in all the wards, and then it's important for people to keep track of who their representative is, keep in touch with them, and find out what's happening in their community. If you want to make things better, you've got to contribute and be part of it.
Well, I want to thank all of our guests, Andrea Anderson-Mason, the former Minister of Justice and the Regional Development Corporation, Frank Carroll, the former Mayor of Macadam, Deputy Mayor of the Municipal District of St. Stephen, Ghislaine Wheaton, and Jim Tubbs from the Rural District 10.
Person to thank is you at home. Thank you for spending this evening with us. Thank you for considering putting your name forward to represent your community. The people that you've heard from in this room tonight are my heroes. They are doing some of the most important work that when you get the chance to do it yourself, you will see how it truly impacts the lives of everyone around you. It is an incredibly important, incredibly powerful, and an incredibly wonderful thing to be able to do with your time. So again, thank you for spending your evening with us. Here is Natalie Sturgeon, Editor-in-Chief of the St. Croix Courier, giving you an idea of how media interacts with local government.
Thanks, Vicki. I've been working in journalism since 2015, and I'm also a member of the New Brunswick Press Gallery and the National Director for Atlantic Canada with the Canadian Association of Journalists. Today I want to talk to you about something you will deal with if you run for office, and especially if you win: your relationship with the media and journalists. If you become a councillor or a mayor, you are no longer just a private citizen. You're a public decision maker. That means your decisions will be reported on. Your words may be quoted, including outside of interviews, during meetings, or statements made on social media platforms. And your actions may be questioned. That's not a flaw in the system, that is the system working. A free press, protected under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, exists to inform the public and hold institutions accountable, and that includes municipal government. Let me clear up one of the biggest misconceptions right away. Journalists are not out to get you. If you're asked tough questions, it's not personal. It's about accountability. Tough questions need to be answered because these are often in the public's best interest. If there are tough questions, you want to be the one to set the record straight. Your role is to make decisions. Our role is to explain and examine those decisions for the public. When that relationship works well, the public benefits. In smaller communities especially, local journalism matters more than ever. At the Courier, we're now part of a nonprofit model through CHCO-TV, which has been serving this region since 1993. That model exists because local news is shrinking across the country, but the need for it isn't. You may also deal with outlets like CBC, CTV Atlantic, Global News, the Telegraph Journal, and All New Brunswick. Each outlet works a bit differently, but the expectations of you remain the same. The most common interaction you'll have with the media is in interview requests. There's a few things you should know. You may be contacted directly, even if your municipality has a spokesperson. Interviews are often recorded, that's for accuracy, and yes, you may be called on short notice. But here's the key advice. If you don't know something, say so. If you need time, ask for it. But don't ignore requests. Silence is still a response, and it often becomes part of the story. Most interviews are fairly quick, about 15 to 20 minutes. But if you're doing a longer format like a sit-down or TV segment, it could be an hour or more. If you're doing virtual interviews, make sure you're clearly visible. Avoid sitting in front of bright windows or white walls. Dress for the situation and treat it like a formal setting, because it is. Now, off the record doesn't mean I said it casually. It means the information cannot be published, but only if that is agreed upon beforehand. You cannot say something and then decide after the fact it was off the record. And even then, a journalist may still verify that information independently. On background means information can be used, but not attributed to you by name. If you're ever unsure, ask before you speak. As a municipal official, you are subject to the Right to Information and Protection of Privacy Act. This means records, emails, documents, communications may be requested. And the reality is almost everything can potentially be accessed. Avoiding or delaying compliance isn't optional, and it can lead to investigations by the Ombudsman or reputational damage. So a good rule of thumb is write and communicate as if it could become public, because it just might. Here are some of the biggest mistakes that I see. often coverage will be taken too personally. Not every critical story is an attack. Negative coverage often reflects reality, not biased. There can be also an effort to try and control the narrative. You don't decide what gets covered, journalists do. There also might be an inclination to favor certain outlets. All media should be treated fairly, regardless of coverage. There also can be a desire to go to social media instead of answering questions. That often escalates situations instead of resolving them. Social media is a powerful platform carrying considerable influence and credibility when content is shared directly by a politician. Which is why, if you're using this platform to communicate, it needs to be backed by verified facts. Two versions of the story, that's how trust gets broken. Being responsible on your platform means thinking twice before taking shots at policy, people, or the press. Take, for example, information shared by US President Donald Trump through social media. Do you often find yourself going to a credible news source to verify what he says? Probably, because there is a reason for you to think it might not be true. That's why trusted news organizations are what the public will turn to. The journalism industry is regulated, just like any other credible industry, just like food quality from a restaurant or your grocer, and building codes for your critical infrastructure. Your house won't fall down, and you can cross a bridge safely. Journalism has standards and practices that help ensure the public trust. But this is something that happened right here in Charlotte County. Premier Susan Holt recently told journalists that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement were at the Calais border. It turned out she had seen the information on social media and then had to publicly correct herself. Sometimes you may find yourself saying no comment too often. It creates more questions than answers. No comment often creates ambiguity. Ambiguity is something the public will not stand for. Here's what does work. Be transparent even when it's uncomfortable, be available even when it's inconvenient, be accurate even when it's complicated, and correct errors professionally, with evidence and not emotion. Most importantly, engage in good faith. You don't have to agree with the coverage, but you do have to respect the role of the press. If you take one thing away from this, I hope it is this. Your relationship with the media will shape how the public understands your work. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be open, honest, and accountable. Because at the end of the day, both our roles serve the same people, the public.
Thank you for joining us for Local Elections 2026, a conversation for Southwest New Brunswick, co-hosted by the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission and CHCO-TV.
Voters go to the polls May 11th. I'm Natalie Sturgeon.
And I'm Vicki Hogarth.